The iSolve It project looks at engaging students with algebraic reasoning. Members of the team describe the iPad applications Math Squared and Math Scaled.
We started the iSolve It project because there is such an emphasis right now on the importance of algebra in mathematics, and that's important to success in life in general. Our thinking was that it can't be just the algebra, it has to be something related to algebra, and so we started looking into the issue of reasoning and logical thinking that go into solving algebra problems, that there's a different way of thinking when you move from arithmetic into algebra. You move from there's one right way of doing things and there's one right answer into there are multiple paths to solving problems and there may be multiple solutions. So we wanted to explore that further and come up with ways to support students in developing that kind of logical thinking that they needed.
The first puzzle that I wanted to talk about is Math Squared, and in this puzzle we followed a puzzle structure that's related to the Sudokus and related to mathematical calculation, where you're using a combination of mathematical clues and the Sudoku rules to present a challenge to students. And we've tried to supply integrated supports that offer the ability for students to not be hindered by the calculation component of the puzzle, and also to not be hindered by the demand on working memory for thinking about what the potential solutions might be to the puzzle. Piece of feedback that we received during our implementation was that the numbers were still not the most positive experience for all students. So we responded by making our second puzzle focus on a structure that didn't demand interacting with numbers. We implemented the Math Scaled application. And in Math Scaled, you're interacting with shapes, and the shapes have an assigned weight before the puzzle starts. And it's your job to sort of use the scales that are in the puzzle and move the shapes around until you can find a way to balance the shapes on the scales.
I've gone into 6 classrooms over the course of the last couple months, and what I've done is I've brought the puzzles to the students, introduced them to the students, and done 15-minute sessions with them for 2 weeks at a time, and have interacted with the students while they're learning the puzzles, and interacted with the students, asking them what they like, what they didn't like, and talked with the teachers about how they might implement the puzzles into their curriculum or integrate them into their curriculum. One of the things that I really like about the 2 games that we made were that the math is kind of hidden.
A lot of students just feel that they're just not good in math, and so they're not willing to try. And the problem is then they don't persist in trying to solve problems. They don't get into the kind of logical thinking that they need for solving problems. They don't see math as a puzzle to be solved. They see math as drudgery. So what we want to do is bring in the game-like, puzzle-like environment so that they can engage in the difficulty, challenging problems, and be successful in them and see themselves as successful in thinking that's related to math.
One of the things that the students are really responding to is that hidden math. When I ask them why they think the games are used in math, in their math class, they say, well, it's to help us with our division and multiplication. It's to help us to learn how to balance things. It's, the basic answers to the questions. But when I really start to probe and get into the deeper questions about what they liked about the game, and what they found fun and what they found challenging, oftentimes they'll describe the exact algebraic concept that we were trying to get at. So they describe, well, there's a lot of different ways that I can get to a number. There's a lot of different ways that I can balance this puzzle where it'll still be equal. So for example, some students describe the scenario in the Math Scaled, which is the balance puzzle. Sometimes I'll have 2 balances on either side and they'll be equal, but the big balance on the top won't be equal. And I think that that's really interesting to a different way of getting at those concepts rather than what one student described as sitting in math class and playing with paper. That this is a much more engaging way to get at those concepts. At the end of the time, it's hard to get the iPads back from them because they want to keep going. They want to finish the puzzles.